So as the Caribbean calls out to us and we find ourselves in this underground Babylon, it's time to head into Little Jamaica. So Little Jamaica really doesn't live up to its namesake, but before we can really soak in the atmos, we are already greeted by one of the barflies here. And wouldn't you know it, that portly frightened gentleman from the previous chapter who mentioned a Kyoji Kamiya, a somewhat infamous serial killer from the Fukuoka area. And guess who we immediately run into in the bar? None other than said serial killer. Now the good news is that he does not wish to kill us. For some unknown reason, he seems to think that we are not quote-unquote prey. We are instead some sort of kindred spirit with him, and that we have come down here not being chased by a monster, but instead seeking some underground copyless paradise where we can possibly kill people as well, or satiate some as yet unknown bloodlust that our character has. Needless to say, let's just hope that he is going to stay under this illusion rather than sniff out the fact that we are indeed just running away from a monster. Now, from the fact that we decided in the thread, it was a very close vote, but we decided we're going to get rid of Naomi and go a different route. Well, yeah, we can get a number of different partners in the game. This one is probably a pretty unexpected one, but this is our first option. Yep, our new partner replacing Naomi is going to be the serial killer. So we'll see what he has to offer us, but first, now that he is latched onto our back, we can talk to some of the patrons here at Little Jamaica, such as the bartender, or the high woman. I can only assume that is her real name. Sadly, most of the people in the bar don't have anything of great interest to tell us. They mostly want to talk about the Holy Ring, or just how on edge everything seems to be in the underground Tokyo mesh for right now. Though I can't honestly bring myself to assume that their life was one of happiness and joy down here. But who knows? Who knows in the Y2K era of Japan. Really, the only one of interest here is Master Jake, the bartender. And he has something very out of place to say to us. And that is namely the fact that he is currently out of underground romance. I can only assume that is some kind of liqueur and not some drug or lubricant. I really cannot begin to assume, but it seems odd that he brings it up, so I guess more than anything we're just going to keep that in the back of our mind and, you know, leave Little Jamaica for right now. I mean, we have a brand new friend, and we probably have at least 2 to 3 other areas of this particular floor to explore, so let's go ahead and do that. First, though, as with Naomi, we can talk to Kamiya here. Though, much like Naomi, talking to him is not really going to be a fruitful experience. He's never really going to give us any hints, so he has other special qualities. Such as if we run into this frightened Play-Doh man here, Kamiya realizes that this guy's been talking a little bit too much. And we can't have that, can we? Thankfully, we can hopefully reel Kamiya in just a tiny bit and just let this guy off with a warning. A very dangerous warning, but warning nonetheless. Yeah, Kamiya, in case we had any inklings otherwise, is definitely a sociopath. So that is definitely going to shine through as we explore around. And we have plenty of doors, so let's just try this first one. And we might have hit the jackpot, in case we were looking for an alcoholic. Yeah, it's, I guess, a bit assumed on the game's part that you might not have gone to Little Jamaica immediately. In case you did explore around just a little bit, you might have happened on this wino, I guess, for lack of a better term. He's one to dole out both advice in life and advice in drinking. And he is nice enough to say, give us this little tidbit of advice, that the nearby bar has a very special vodka on tap called Underground Romance. And sadly, well, we just asked Master Jake, and he happened to be out. But I get a strong feeling that we narrowly just missed the delivery man, so if we head back really quick and hit up Master Jake one more quick time. Hey, there you go. It only took talking to the magical wino for this bottle of Underground Romance to mysteriously appear here in Little Jamaica. I guess, well, every item that we find in this game is going to have a use, even though it might not seem immediately apparent. Everything, there's no adventure game logic here where we're going to pick up fake items. But, well, from the information center before, we know that we can probably head into another area if we use our mechanized key here. Though it can't be that simple. Yeah. Much like with all the other lockdown doors, quite a few of the larger doors here, even with the proper key, are just not going to work. So, we do have a few other doors to investigate, and we are going to be checking out one very particular door here. Because after all of that running around, well, you know, got a nice bed here, we might as well try to take a little nap. That seems completely logical. Yeah, thankfully the game is smart enough to know that we probably should not be sleeping right now, especially with all these derelicts, hobos, winos, serial killers, and invisible fat men roaming around. So, let's investigate the sturdy dresser. Now, if we had shown Mole the Appraiser our screwdriver, he would have said a very obvious hint that, hey, this could be used to move a large piece of furniture, and, well, thankfully the game is good enough to give us another hint. Yep. That is the sound a screw makes, in someone's mind. But yeah, with all those screws now moved out of place, find a convenient hidden passage that was covered up by that large dresser. And we have managed to stumble into the creepiest hidden passage you could fucking imagine. So, for however odd or surreal this game might get, at times it can get unusually creepy. Inky black hidden passages, narrow claustrophobic corridors. They can kind of get to you. And especially with the knowledge that there is a monster lurking somewhere about, it can kind of make things pretty tense. But that hidden passage wasn't too long. It just felt like an eternity. And, as you could probably guess, that would be our only means currently between getting between the, I think it was the southeast and other portions of the third floor of the Tokyo Mesh. Or, I'm sorry, first floor. It's a bit confusing that even though we are inevitably going to go deeper and deeper into the Tokyo Mesh, even though we're heading down, the numbers are going to increase. I'm sure it makes sense to someone. As we learned in the previous video, apparently the Japanese military made this place purposely enigmatic. I guess to confuse trespassers, which apparently they were planning on there being a lot of, because there are a lot of random people down here. Such as the Net Asada. Now I will say, for however strange some of these people might be, they mean well for the most part. I mean, outside of this serial killer that we are now teamed up with, which I'm still assuming that will work out in a positive way at some point. But yeah, Asada here just fills us in a little bit more in regards to some of the Holy Ring's comings and goings. They seem to be doing the whole kidnapping thing, which we heard a little bit about, and we dealt with a little bit if you did watch the bonus video, where I suffered a untoward game over by being kidnapped by the Holy Ring and fed to a monster. I assume they weren't too terribly clear. But yeah, the Holy Ring is doing something untoward to other people down here, possibly using them for a blood sacrifice. It's not super clear. They're probably not open to filling out questionnaires about what they're doing with people or their blood. So, I can only assume we are going to find out. Either way, Asada does give us some helpful information in the fact that if we see them, treat them as if they were monsters and backstep as quickly as we can. For the most part, though, outside of those odd noises that we heard in the hidden passageway, we have been thankfully avoiding the monster somewhat well up to this point. Still, I kind of wish we could find an information terminal somewhere around here. It's always a bit dangerous to just go around these corridors somewhat blindly. Because you never know when a malformed apparition might pop up. And for the most part, Sakaki here is mostly innocuous, or so he seems. He does warn us about the monster on the loose in the mesh, but he comes with a hidden danger. And that hidden danger is the fact that he triggers the monster to appear. Yeah, so it's now time to make a hasty retreat. Now, going into that passageway, completely optional. Sadly, even if we had Naomi here, she would not warn us about going towards that door. And she would not warn us that there was a monster attack impending. And that would be great, because right now, this hallway is not being too friendly. Instead, it seems to be giving us an endless stream of these very repetitive residential area rooms that just immediately kick us out. And considering that the monster is, well, as we know from before, very fast and very close by, we really don't need any more of these rooms that are just going to immediately kick us out. So, third time's the charm, right? Well, we won't consider that the third time. Third time's the charm. Yeah. It's at this point when exploration really becomes pretty obviously a bad idea. But finally, we managed to find a room that we're not immediately kicked out of. And it has something French. Now, if you're wondering what an objet d'art is, I had to look it up myself because it's a very broad French term. It's apparently any piece of art that is not a painting and is of a particular size. In this case, this objet d'art, well, we're not even able to really investigate it. It just makes us feel uncomfortable. I'm not sure if there's supposed to be some deeper meaning or if it's supposed to be a holy ring emblem that just doesn't come across, but we'll leave that because there's more important things. Namely, a number of bland wooden boxes. Now, clearly they wouldn't have 4 different wooden boxes here for no apparent reason, right? Something has to be in one of these boxes. But the game wants to screw with us a little bit before we figure out which box has something in it. Now, at least 2 of these seem like they have something important. They at least get a description. But in particular, this 4th box here at least states that it's still sealed. So, through a process of elimination and just trying to use a crowbar on everything, we finally find something in this 4th box. And it's another bottle of booze. I'm not sure if the person that wrote this particular area of the game was something of an alky, but sure. let's just pretend that at this point we're trying to make a Little Jamaica version 2 or some other competing tropical themed bar, and let's just go along with all these alcoholic bottles that are rumbling around in our jacket. So, with our jacket now stuffed to the brim with alcohol and assorted tools, we're now in the final area of the first floor of the Tokyo Mesh. And it seems that we've caught the monster on his daily walk around the mesh. And really, if you had managed to avoid every other trap situation, this would really be the first time you'd run into him, and it can be pretty dangerous just because we almost had a heart attack just trying to reach that first door. But in this first door, we do find two very interesting things. First, we're going to talk to hiding Jinbei here. And Jinbei, well, outside of his adjective being very appropriate and the fact that he is hiding from a monster, he does have another very peculiar quirk, and that is he is looking for a bottle of Tokyo Mesh Vintage. It's apparently a great hallucinogenic alcohol, possibly the best whiskey ever made by man. And since we are so amicable, well, figure we might as well go ahead and give him a little sip. Not too much, though. And Jinbei, as you can imagine, is quite ecstatic, though I think he hits the bottle a little bit too hard. And for being so nice to him, he does give us access to this mysterious door behind him. Apparently it is connected to another hidden passage. A hidden passage that will lead us directly back to that starting area where we first entered the Tokyo Mesh. And he's had a pretty hectic day, and since we were so nice to him, it did change his adjective from hiding to peaceful, though... Oh, that is not good. I guess I could say that was a mercy killing, but... Yeah, before we check out that door, I do want to check out some of the other nearby doors. Some of them might hold something of interest for us. And while an information terminal can be of use on this particular area. This area of the first floor is probably the largest in comparison to some of the other areas we've been in. And it does have some things that are possibly very useful, such as an emergency elevator, which, oddly, the description calls it a stairwell. I I can only assume it's a combination of both, but more importantly, there is another stairwell that leads down to the production area, which, if I recall, is on the second floor. So I guess those might be two areas worth checking out. And in between here and there is one other room I'm wanting to check out super quick. And that's to greet this. I think this is supposed to be a guy, but looking here is, as you can imagine, looking for a very particular object. Now, he does have some information to trade us, but first we are going to have to find headphones. Now, I can assume that maybe this might be connected to Natural Mika, who also mentioned some headphones, so maybe whoever she got the headphones from might also have some more headphones? I guess it's worth a shot, but if anything, looking there did mention that he might have dropped them back in the central square in the southwest area. And considering we just murdered a man to access a hidden passage back to that area, I guess it only makes sense that we should maybe see if that leads right to where we need to go. Now, this hidden passage is a lot more sprawling than the previous hidden passage, but it's still a pretty straight route. The only problem is that it's not 100%, but there have been times when I've actually run into the monster down in this area. And as you can imagine, that is terrifying. I can only imagine, though, that it might be due to the fact that you spend a little bit too much time in the hidden passage, or you go down kind of a dead-end route, but, well, keep it to your imagination, if you will. Just how scary that can be, honestly. Yeah, if we look at our map, we find that we are in an isolated little area of the southwest. And there isn't too much over here that we want to explore. We pretty much just want to duck into this nearby room. Because coincidentally enough, we almost immediately find the damaged headphones that Looking mentioned. Now, they do look like they're a bit rickety and probably prone to breaking, but, well, they do seem to be in relative working order. And, well, I did mention Natural Mika before, and she did mention that she was looking for headphones, so, well, it is a little bit out of the way, but we did kind of run into her first, and well, I wonder what happens if we go ahead and give her the headphones. Now, this is probably not what most people would do in this game, mostly for the fact that getting back to Mika is an arduous journey. You have to go back through 2 hidden passages, you have to go back through 3 different zones, and you have to have even talked to her in the first place to even realize that she was looking for these headphones. And when I first played this, I assumed that she would not want these headphones because they were rickety garbage. But I guess beggars cannot be choosers in the Tokyo Mesh, and She is actually ecstatic to get them. And what do we get for our efforts but, well, we get a big thank you, which is good, I suppose. But she also mentions that, well, we should be on the lookout for her stank friend, Rise? Apparently, even though he is a big wimp, he still might be of some use. And honestly, for all that trekking about, that just does not seem worth it. So, instead of giving it to Natural Mika, let's see what happens if we give it to Looking. I mean, this seems like the more obvious choice, and, well, it is her property, so, well, it is his property. I honestly cannot tell if this is supposed to be a man or a woman. But giving it to Looking seems to be the more appropriate answer, because they do give us a stairwell key, and they do mention, in case we didn't look at the information terminal, that there was a set of stairs leading down to the second floor. And that seems to be where our end goal is going to be for this area. And also they name drop another person that we should be on the lookout for, a Tetsuyo. Now, since we do have the keys, or the key to the stairwell leading to the second floor, I figure it might be a good idea as any to, well, see if we can't just go ahead and make our way down to the second floor. Now, what I really do wonder about is, well, would we be trapped if we ended up giving the headphones to the wrong person? As far as I can tell, yeah. I'm not sure how else you're supposed to get the stairwell key. It's definitely not as if we can use this emergency stairwell/elevator to get anywhere. But I really cannot fathom the possibility that the game would have put in some fail state for the player in case they decided to give a seemingly arbitrary item to the incorrect person. I mean, there could be a case where if you gave the headphones to Mika that another NPC would spawn to give you the key. Or maybe that Looking would have given you the key for some other reason. I'm not entirely sure, but needless to say, I have almost little to no want to investigate further. This game has a lot of different things that it can do, and I'll try to find things that are interesting, but it's a little bit time-consuming, considering, well, you see how far I can sprint before my character starts to have heart palpitations, so. But yeah, this is going to be where the stairwell is. But yeah, if you recall, most of the Tokyo Mesh is still very much on a lockdown state. And Wesker here is not going to really give us any additional help. I promise you, though, the serial killer does do something outside of threaten people. Also, before we head all the way back, there is one other thing easily missed in this area. And that's Pheromone Mayumi, which is a very bizarre nickname. I almost want to say it has some kind of sexual connotations, especially considering that she seems to be a woman much like Natural Mika that has had a lot of male relationships. And even Kamiya is drawn to her, saying that, well, there's other pleasures to be had outside of the bottle. Wink, wink. But yeah, normally if we did have Naomi here, Mayumi would be nice enough to say, hey, I really enjoy underground romance for my alcoholic adventures. And you're supposed to put two and two together there to give her, the bottle of underground romance here, but, well, let's just put our adventure assumption into action. Yeah, this is one of the few early instances where having Kamiya join you is going to actively work against you. Because the clue you would normally get to solve this puzzle is not given to you because he decides to be kind of chauvinistic and rude, to say the least. But we still managed to get something out of the deal here, which is this bizarre green card. Now, we could go back to the mole appraisal and get a vague idea as to where we want to use this, but, well, you might recall where we instigated a little monster attack that there was a door behind that NPC. And if we had managed to juke around the monster and try to open that door, we find that it had a green card slot. To one of the loudest rooms in the history of games. Yeah. This is a very important room, though, because it has a special computer, just like from those old San Francisco movies that everybody likes. And, well, we want to turn it off because it's obnoxiously loud. Thank you. But having pushed that button, we have now deactivated the security system, the security lockdown for the Tokyo Mesh, which means that all those doors, all those large bulkheads that were previously locked to us, are now magically unlocked. And you would think that would mean that the monster now has pretty much free reign to move around. But oddly enough, the monster just seems to stop appearing. So, now, like I said, all these large bulkheads will open up, and we can get access to a few doors that were previously barred from us, but, well, they don't hold anything. They're completely useless, so backtracking is a fruitless endeavor. So, with all that out of the way, all the alcohol now gone from our system, and Stairwell key in hand, I think we are now safe and sound to leave this first floor of the Tokyo Mesh and see what lies below on that second floor.